I had the honor to share lunch with Major Klein a few weeks ago, and I just want to say I was blown away by the experiences in his life, and what's here on this table is only a small part of that. And I just want to say one more time, sir, thank you very much for your service. I appreciate it. My name is Nick Ward. I am a U.S. Army veteran, and as Bernie said, I run a service-disabled veteran-owned small business here in the Lehigh Valley. I did join the Army shortly after 9/11. I can remember the day very, very clearly. I was 19 years old. I was putting a roof on a house on Massachusetts Avenue up in northwest Washington, D.C. Everybody ended up on the roof after the plane hit. It was the place where you could see the smoke coming off the Pentagon. The really strange thing was the sky was completely empty. Normally, between National Airport and Dulles, there are planes flying all over. And there were just a couple fighter jets up there that morning. Did not get to go to Afghanistan, but I did see a lot of Iraq. After arriving in my first duty station, which was Darmstadt, Germany, I was told not to even unpack my bags. We were headed into Kuwait to invade Iraq. The drive from the Iraqi-Kuwaiti border up into Baghdad took us 5 weeks. It was really hot. There were no showers and not a lot of sleep, but it was a very exciting time for me. I was living it. I was at war. Once we got up into Baghdad, we arrived at a place called Al-Faw Palace. Al-Faw Palace was Saddam's duck hunting refuge. It was largely spared by the Air Force because I believe it was had planned to be a strategic place we were going to headquarter ourselves, and I think it still is to this day. It was beautiful. Saddam had diverted the Euphrates River and filled these artificial lakes. They were deep enough to sustain fish in the middle of a desert. I think my mom, who's here tonight, has a picture of me with thumbs up standing over a gold toilet. I mean, it was just a really beautiful place. We were headquartered in Saddam Hussein's personal zoo. The concrete enclosures there made good sense for us. We would get mortared every night, and the pens for the animals would protect us from rocket and mortar fire, stuff like this. Special Forces guys who'd been there for a while, they ate all the animals, most of the animals, before we showed up. And I'll never forget my first safety briefing in Baghdad. A really tough-looking master sergeant, a Special Forces guy who'd been there doing what those guys do for a couple weeks. He gave the brief. I, who had been in country for 5 weeks, thought I was Special Forces probably by that point, and the toughest guy in the country. But they said, memorize your deck of 52 cards, which they handed out to everybody. This had it was the leaders of Saddam's regime who were currently hiding in the country, the most wanted 52 guys. Don't shoot at the looters unless they shoot at you first. If you're going to shoot at one, just make sure you know what's behind them. Travel with a battle buddy. Watch where you go. There was unexploded ordnance in the area, and watch out for the lion. Everybody said, what? And what had happened was these Special Forces guys went to eat some gazelles or something like that, flipped the wrong lever at the zoo, out goes the lion into Baghdad. But we didn't need the stress of a lion on top of everything else. 3 total combat tours in Iraq. I was through that palace every single tour. Nobody ever found that lion. It's somebody's pet or lunch. I'm not sure. But during my first 8-month tour, my company had 1 combat death. Specialist Aaron Clark was killed by a roadside bomb outside of a place called Dogwood. His death was fast, which I think is probably all you could ask for in a situation like that. Between that first 8-month deployment and the next 4 months, my unit, the same company, lost 3 more soldiers to suicide. This trend continued throughout my next 2 tours and all of my time in the Army. None of the units I served with and deployed with made it through completely unscathed, but the suicide rates were always higher than the combat killed in action numbers. Divorce was high, abuse of alcohol was prevalent. I won't stand in the room with Major here and say that, complain about the job that we did. We all know war is hard, and I think the numbers of the veterans as they come home now, they speak to that and the services they require. I could not be where I am right now without help from the Veterans Affairs Department. The VA and the Veteran Support Services represented in this room are absolutely critical to the reintegration and sustainment of our veterans. Specialized organizations that are equipped with the know-how and understanding to deal with our nation's warfighters are especially important here in our area and close a gap in services provided by the VA. I think that is important with what's going on. Getting outside of the hospitals and into communities and in people's homes, it's a really, really special thing. I'm proud to have been invited to this event and allowed to share a bit of my story, and it gives me peace to know that there are so many good people here in this room working to support veterans in the Lehigh Valley. Thank you.